Hi, Captain Dave Hansen. I got a phenomenal show for you today. I got my co-host Bill Varney joining us, and we got Benji Kim coming all the way from the factory at Okuma. He's got some cool things to talk about. These two young men in front of me right here are going to be performing live on the show at the Pacific Coast Sport Fishing Festival. They got a lot to talk about. They got a lot to tell you about. Today's going to be a phenomenal show. Benji's going to teach Bill Varney and I all about how to catch fish. So we're super excited to learn today, and it's going to be just a great show, and you're going to get to meet these guys at the Pacific Coast Sport Fishing Festival. Kelly, my wife, and I are super excited. We got just a couple days left before we fly into beautiful Southern California, and we meet up with our security force, because I'm seeing that they don't prosecute in California. So we're kind of terrified to come up there, but we're told we're going to have a security team with us. So we're going to be okay. I'm just having fun. Calm down. Everybody relax. Deep breath. It's Okuma Wednesday, gang. Yeah. Delta Force is going to join Kelly and I in Orange County. Well, we're pretty safe. We're going to be on the other side of the orange curtain. So we're feeling good about it. But gang, it's Okuma Wednesday. We always talk about some phenomenal products from Okuma. Okuma, I can't do the show without Okuma. I've been with Okuma for over 20 years. They're a big sponsor of your Saltwater Guide. I want to thank everybody over there, Michelle and John and Dave Brown and Alan and the rest of the crew at Okuma for everything you've done for me over all these years. And thank you all very much. We'll show you a real cool video. Okuma has some phenomenal specials going on at the PCS show. Benji and Bill will talk about some of that, and we'll get into the show. I'm super excited to have you with us today, Benji. Welcome.
Yeah, can you hear me?
I got you loud and clear, buddy. That's amazing. Gang, he was driving home with his son from school, said, I'll be on in one. He was driving 2 minutes ago, and here he is. Woo! Technology.
Yeah, I mean, Dave gave me the invite to do this. Be on here, and then it was like I didn't hear back, so and then I forgot about it. So Dave texted me like 5 minutes ago, like, "Hey, where are you?" I'm like, "Where am I? What?"
Oh my gosh! And then that's Captain Al Clowers, Benji. I don't know if you've met Al before. But Al usually joins us on Wednesdays, so this is going to be a fun show today. Let's get everybody introduced to who you are, Benji, and what you're all about. You got a great presence on the internet, YouTube channel, Instagram channel. Talk about it for a minute.
Yeah, my name is Benji. Thanks, Dave, so much for having me. It's an honor to be on your platform, man. And I've been seeing so much of your content out there, and I just love watching it. And honored to share this time with you guys. Yeah, my name is Benji. I just love to fish. I think one of my calling cards, I'm an average fisherman, but I love the game. And I think I've kind of carved out my niche mostly with surf fishing. And, big thanks to Bill for being one of the very first inspirations of what the heck we're supposed to be doing out in the Southern California surf. Picking up the light line surf fishing revolution when I walked into Seal Beach, Big Fish Bait and Tackle, not knowing a single thing, and picked up that book and devoured it. And it's really what kind of really got me moving down the path of, learning how to do that. So I'm a multi-species angler. I like going on the sport boats. I'll dabble with a little bit of stock trout. But most of the stuff is what I do from the surf, whether it be light line fishing, targeting corbina, perch and croaker. And then I think most of what I do now is probably targeting halibut and like sea bass and, other game fish, throwing jerk baits, lucky crafts. From the surf is kind of what I love to do the most. So just in a nutshell.
Yeah. And then you got your YouTube channel and your Instagram page. Your YouTube channel is pretty interesting. Like I was telling you before, I hardly ever look at I am so busy. I hardly look at anything, but I look at your stuff. And I think a lot of that was because of the connection with Okuma. But as I'm watching your stuff, like I told you the other day, I'm like, fishing that big torpedo sinker in the surf for halibut, I would have never thought. But I'm watching you jerk them in, and I'm going, Bill, he's doing it without light line. He's doing it with a giant weight, and he's wailing on them. So the cool thing about what's going on, like when I went with Captain Al Clowers, Benji, is every day I'm learning. I'm always learning. That's probably why I've been in this industry for 52 years, because I sure the heck don't know everything, and I'm willing to learn all the time. Just like when the guys came out with the kite, showing me how to fish with that in 2014, 2015, I was like, thank you guys for teaching me that. And then we took it and we went to the next level. Same kind of thing fishing with Captain Al in the Back Bay. It's just stuff I've never got to do. And then that fishing in the surf with Bill Varney, when he taught me about how the fish were living at my feet, not 9 miles out there as far as you could cast the long rod. And then I'm watching what you're doing. There's just so much to learn about that. So I'm super excited to have you on here with Bill and Al today. So Bill, you got anything to talk to Benji about?
Oh, come on. How much do I have to talk to Benji about? Well, first of all, everybody, like, go to Benji's YouTube page and look at all of his videos. There's so many good educational videos on that to get you on your feet and get casting out in the surf. There's so much going on there. So that's really good. But, Benji, I wanted to ask you, I know that of late and a lot of times you concentrate a lot on halibut. So I want to ask you a few questions about that. So conditions. So like what tide and moon phase, and is it going to be windy or not windy? What are you looking for when you want to go out halibut fishing?
Yeah, so in terms of tides, high tide or low tide, for me, that depends on the beach. So I think there's some old timers along the way that said something really wise that always stuck with me. It's tides don't dictate if I fish, they dictate where I fish. Something to that effect, And so every beach lines up differently. And so when it comes to halibut specifically, and everything here is a generalization and understanding that everyone has slightly different ways of doing things. In general, the guys that really have spent a lot of time hunting halibut typically seem to like to target negative tide reefs, reef systems. And the idea behind that is if you locate an area that has a nearshore reef, when it's covered up at a high tide, it's difficult to hit that structure in a way where you can cast to target where those fish might be. But if you identify a reef, a lot of times it's very advantageous to walk out at a negative tide where you can walk out onto the reef and walk out all the way to the edge of that reef and be able to fish the ledges. And so that's like my favorite style of fishing. It's a little sketchy. I'm getting a little older. My legs aren't the same, but it's really like it's the most exciting and definitely like the most productive is finding that reef structure uncovered at a place where there's still enough water where you're casting to be able to target those fish. So when it comes to halibut, yeah, I'm looking at the beach I want to fish, how that beach lines up on a specific tide. And then condition wise, I pay attention a lot to wave energy, and that I think applies for any style of fishing, whether you're targeting Corbina or whatever. I'm definitely looking for lower wave energy. In Southern California, I think it's rare, but not super rare to find wave energy KJs under 100. So what that indicates is how strong, and you correct me if I'm wrong, this is how I've come to understand it over the years, is the lower the KJ, the calmer the water is going to be. The swell that's coming in, it's not going to be quite as forceful. And so it's a lot more forgiving in terms of your ability to cast, as well as the most important thing is what your line and what your lure and bait is doing in the water. Because if there's constant swell that's super powerful, you might not be presenting your bait or lure the way that is advantageous for a fish to see it and eat it. So KJ is really important to me. And then wave intervals is something that I've been perseverating on for the past couple of years. Wave intervals, I look for double-digit intervals, like 15 to 20 seconds. The weird thing about that is, as I understand it, the longer the wave interval, that would seem to indicate a higher wave energy, because the longer time there is between for each swell, the stronger that wave will be coming in. But there are anomalies to this, and I promise you, I've had days where it's like a 20-second interval and the KJ is still like 40, which is like basically non-existent. And so that means you have a lot of time to cast in between each swell that's passing, especially like with the Lucky Craft or throwing jerk baits. You know, you're not always getting knocked around by the waves, so you have plenty of time in between each swell coming through, and then it's super calm. So, you know, basically looking for lake-like conditions, and I think those are the things that I'm looking for. Wind, obviously, wind is, I think, all of our least favorite things. So anything that's under 10 knots, I'll fish. And if it's over 10 knots, then, you know, and then 15, forget about it, you know, is kind of what I'm looking for. A lot of other variables, water temps, barometric pressure. I know it matters. I just don't incorporate that into whether I go out or not too often. And same with moon phases. I know it matters, especially like with Grundon runs and things like that. But for me, it's like if the aforementioned conditions line up first and those are looking real prime, I don't care what moon phase it is, I'm going, if that makes any sense. But yeah, that's in a nutshell. Hope that makes sense. And if I said anything dumb, please correct me. I'm in a room full of legends. So.
No, that all makes sense. That all makes sense, and nothing was dumb. You know, with the KJs and with the duration between the swells. So over my experience over the years, the shorter the duration. So if you have like an 8 to 12 second duration, that is normally caused by a wind swell. So a wind swell would be created from a storm or heavy winds that are fairly, well, relatively less than 1,000 miles close to shore, where those waves are ultimately going to break. And then with a longer duration, like you said, like 15, 16 to 20 seconds, or maybe even a little bit longer, those are often ground swells that originate 4,000 or 5,000 miles from here. And then they work their way off the coast. We have a bunch of that going on this winter from off of Chile and Antarctica, where these storms are 5,000-6,000 miles away. They're producing 60-foot swells in the storm. When they get up here, they're 3-foot swells, much smaller, but they've gone over such a long distance. Not only do they spread out a bit, but instead of just affecting the top area of water that wind swell does one after another, they get deep. And they affect all the level of water and push it, in this case, to the north, if the swell is out of the south, or toward this out of the north. So those are the exact conditions that I look for too. And you don't want to get too overly involved, as you know, Benji, about like, you know, you want to look at the tides and all that, but the moon phases and whether it's foggy or not, and it's crowded or not, and you don't want to overthink it. You just want to get your butt down there and make some casts, because you're not going to catch any fish if you don't make casts.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, that's makes a lot of sense. Thanks for the insight on that. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense for sure.
Captain Al, what in the hell are they talking about?
I don't know. Hey, it's Benji.
Yes, sir.
Way to break it down. You know, over the years, I've always tried to stay away from overthinking my fishing. But I mean, for the regular people that don't know how to gather all that information, you can just look at the swell, right? If it's a 1 to 2 foot swell at 16 to 18 second intervals, the kg, whatever you guys are talking about, that, which is the juice of the swell, it's not going to be too snappy. And also, if the water's filled in, it's not going to be too snappy either, because it's the higher the tide, the more, you know what I mean. The lower the tide, the more snappy. The higher tide, the less snappy. You know, so I think all that surf fishing is really cool. I don't do a lot of it, but I got 6 grandkids, and I guarantee you, when it warms up a little bit, I'm going to be taking them to the beach and let them just walk and wind and cast. You know?
Yeah,
exactly.
I would let them watch.
And then Benji, my next question.
Whoops. I would let them watch Benji's videos,
Dave.
Al.
All right. Yeah, I'll hook them up with them. I'll figure it out. And
I
hook
think
it
they'll
up.
be just fine.
That's right.
Hey, I just
And then Benji, in the surf for halibut fishing, and of course, all kinds of other fish, but let's just concentrate on them. Common baits have been Castmasters, crocodiles, drop shot rigs, plastic swim baits, and then of course, probably starting 20 years ago, all of these hard baits that are like Lucky Craft, Battlestar, Yozuri, Rapala or Rapala, depending on where you live in the country. So which ones do you like to use? So I have lots of questions. So
No.
hang on. Which ones do you like to use? And then when you're using these hard baits, do you change the hooks out on them? And then my last question on these hard baits is, do you ever use a Sharpie to change the dots or the colors or the look of these at all?
There was a lot there, so if I forget any of the questions, then please remind me. For the last part, I'm definitely going to forget that. And no, I don't alter anything. I don't use like Sharpies or anything like that. I'm just lazy. That's the only reason. Like it's just not. I know people will do different things. So I know guys that'll put like epoxy like substance on the body of their hard baits to kind of protect the pattern on it, like like clear nail polish or something like that to protect it. It's just not something that interests me that much. Swapping out hooks, so I fish Lucky Crafts, and I do have a relationship with Lucky Craft, and they've been very kind to me over the years. So that's what I use. I don't swap out the hooks on those. The Flashman 110 over the years there's a little bit of a reputation for the hooks being a little too soft. So I think one of the drawbacks of having softer hooks is they'll bend out. And so a lot of people, the hooks are too soft. The hooks are too soft. My hook keep bending out. And so I don't swap them out until they bend out or if they get corrosion. Because the one thing about their stock, because I believe they're VMC right now, is they're super sticky out of the box. And I think, to me, that's the most important thing with the jerk baits is how sticky are the hooks. And they're super sticky out of the box. So I'll fish it until they're not sticky anymore, or if there's some corrosion, or if I've bent them out. I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but I think that they're in the process of finally, after all these years, swapping out their VMC hooks, I think. So to a little bit more a sturdier option coming up here sometime soon. So with that, and then my favorite, my favorite thing to do is throw the Lucky Craft, to throw the hard bait in the surf. I'm not going to say that it's the only way and it's the best way to catch halibut. I think the best way to catch halibut is what brings you the most confidence and what you're best at. I know a lot of guys do really well with throwing weedless soft plastics, anywhere from 4 to 7 inches. Typically weedless, using an EWG hook, to various styles. You can just straight up traditional Texas rig it with the bullet weight, or there's like the weighted swim bait hooks out there. And guys do extremely well with that. So I think that those are the two primary ways, if you're not using live bait, is to hard bait or the soft plastic. If you're just starting out, I would recommend drop shotting, because in my opinion, that's like the most forgiving way to fish for halibut, just because of the whole idea of it is it's such a finesse technique. And if you have the right space between your sinker and your hook, and you cast it out there, if you're in the right water column, you're in the right water column that whole time. You don't have to worry about where your swim bait is swimming. You don't have to worry about where your jerk bait is, water column wise and all that stuff. Like you just cast it out and it's just in the column the whole time, So I think those are the three probably most popular and maybe the best way to target halibut. Other things like micro jigs, 15 gram, 10 gram micro jigs are very, very valid in the bays and the surf. And then if you live bait, I think nothing beats live bait, and that's like a whole nother thing.
Right, right. And of course these Lucky Crafts, they were originally designed for freshwater bass fishing. So
Hmm.
hook wise, when you're catching a largemouth or a smallmouth bass, they have a very soft mouth. This is a very efficient hook that they originally put on it.
Hmm.
When they came out to the West Coast and they introduced them here on the West, well, all of the US, but the West Coast in particular, they didn't have a lot of interest in
Hmm.
people fishing them in fresh water, but they had
Hmm.
all of this interest, which they didn't even know about because the rep was up in Washington, out in the saltwater for fishing halibut, and they came out and they said, "Hey, we're not going to continue to sell these in California." And a bunch of us got together and wrote them a letter and said, "Hey, these work really good for halibut fishing." So
Yeah.
I think, like you said, maybe over time regarding the hooks, and I'm the same way. I don't change them out until it's time for them to be changed out. And yes, I do put in a little bit heavier hook.
Uh-huh.
But there's no reason to do that until they begin to break down by getting rusty and not sharp anymore and things like that. So
Yeah, in
that's
my
really,
opinion.
that great bait to have. And
Yeah.
then, Benji, these baits, as you know, these are suspension baits. So when you're halibut fishing, you don't have a floating hard bait like this where you're drawing it along the surface like you would for a bonita. You're down in the water column, not really, not on the bottom, but not far from the bottom, because that's, of course, where the halibut live. So what technique do you use when you cast out in order to get this lure into the zone? What do you do to get it down there where it's suspended where the
Yeah, that's a
fish are?
great question. Yeah, so the Flashman 110, which is their flagship saltwater jerkbait, is a 1 to 2 foot diver, and it's a suspending. So it doesn't float, but it's designed to, in the buoyancy of the saltwater, it kind of floats like mid column. Is kind of the idea behind it. Even if you're just dead sticking it, it's kind of mid column. With the Flash Minnow, I think I fish it very specifically, and I found that that's what brings me the most consistent results, has been honing in where I'm throwing it. So again, negative tides, I'm fishing 3 to 4 foot water columns. Like, I'm not fishing huge giant holes at high tide. If I'm fishing during that time, chances are I'm not throwing a 110. So I'm reef hopping. I'm at the edge of reefs, fishing water that's like maybe up to my thighs. That's the call I'm fishing because it's a 1 to 2 foot diver. So I'm confident that when I'm fishing it in those conditions, that jerkbait is swimming very close to the face of a halibut. If that makes any sense. So it's very specific as to when I'm throwing it. You can throw it in deeper water columns too, and have productive perch bites, yellowfin croaker bites. I've had my fair share of those, Central Coast, you're fishing deeper water columns, but you don't need to be near the bottom like for halibut, So for halibut, I found, it's the very specific conditions that I'm fishing that lure. And again, I'm fishing heavy structure. So I'll fish shallow water columns, I'll cast, and sometimes I'll even have my rod tip at like close to a 90-degree angle as I'm retrieving it, because I don't want to dig into the structure there, but I'm also still near the bottom. So I'll fish it, and then when you watch like freshwater jerkbait techniques, you'll see them jerking down, right? Like boom, boom, boom. So the typical is cadence is jerk, jerk, pause, jerk, 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 pause, is what, so I actually do it up. So jerk, jerk, pause, jerk, and so on and so forth. And the idea of that is I'm bumping over the structure that I'm swimming over, and then I'm hopping it over the rocks, if that makes any sense. So I feel it, and I just hop it over. Otherwise, I've only developed that style because of, the 50 lures that I lost when I was learning. And over the years, I think my loss rate has gone much better. I still lose one every now and again, but not as much.
All right. Well, hold on one second, gang. Without Okuma, we can't do this show. And I got a really cool video from Benji that he made with Okuma showing a couple of the rods that they're going to be having specials on at the Pacific Coast Sport Fishing Festival. Watch this video, then we'll throw up the specials, and then we'll talk about it real quick. Here, watch this video, everybody.
My name is Benji, and today I want to talk about the surf setup that I've been using primarily for the past year. This is the Okuma Inspira ISX 3000, and I got the Okuma Rockaway SP 10-foot M+. And this rod has a line rating of 10 to 20 pounds and a lure rating of 1/2 to 3 ounces. What I love most about this rod is its combination of sensitivity and power. You can feel everything on this rod, but when you hook into a bigger grade fish like stripers or bigger halibut and sea bass, it can handle the bigger grade fish no problem. I have the rod paired up with the Inspira ISX 3000. This thing comes in at 8.5 ounces and has 18 pounds of max drag, which you'll never need. I love that this reel comes with carbonite drag washers installed. Most reels come with felt washers. It's a beautiful reel, super smooth. I've been fishing this from the surf for over a year now, and it's still ticking just as smooth as the day I bought it. This reel also has a cyclonic flow rotor, which is gonna help funnel water out and keep the water out of the reel. This thing comes in at only $100. It's priced as a budget reel, but I feel like you get a lot more for it. It's really been my favorite setup for the past year. Hope you
Yeah.
Where'd you get that from?
Michelle sent it to me.
Dude,
So-
I filmed that 2 weeks ago. So where I'm talking, that was at Seal Beach, and it was raining that day. I don't know if you guys remember when the storms were. So I filmed that. I just shipped that off. I just sent that to Okuma a couple days ago, and I didn't even know that. Like, yeah, that's cool.
Look at that. I'm right on it, right? I'm right up on everything.
No
So
one's seen that
gang,
yet.
There's a whole bunch of different specials going on at the PCS show. You're going to swing by the Okuma booth. I might be over there. Benji might be over there. Bill might be over there. Al, you don't know who's going to be jumping in and out of the booth, but there's so many different specials. We got a handful of them here to show you. And then that rod combination that Benji just showed you, you can save on all of that. Okuma's offering you this. If you look at what I'm throwing up there on the screen, you buy any Okuma Rockaway surf rod, you're going to get 25% off from today until March 31st. And you're going to use the code SURFHansen25. And that's going to save you 25% on that. On that rod that Benji was just showing. Those reels will be on display in the Okuma booth. There's so much going on. Justin and I were talking about it Monday. They're going to have 50 of the rail rods that'll be gone on Thursday. If you're not there Thursday, those will be gone. If you buy a Makaira reel in one of the tackle stores over at Turner's or one of the other tackle stores, you come over to the Okuma booth, you're going to get that rail rod for free. They don't even have it up here because they're going to be gone so fast. They only have 50 of them. We're talking about all these different specials, but the relationship that all of us here have with Okuma is pretty special for all of us. So I want to make sure you understand what they're doing for us is incredible. And to give you guys 25% off these Rockaway surf rods, that's an incredible number. 25% off, that means they're not going to be really making much off the rods, but that's because you watch our podcast, you're going to get that. You swing by the booth, you swing by any of the people that are selling the products there, you're going to save on all these different products. The rail rod, you're going to get free. If you buy the Makaira reel, you're going to get a free Tesoro jigging rod. If you buy the Lejos or the Kavala, you're going to get the Fish Labs Kanata jigs. If you buy a PCH or Tesoro jigging rod, I talk about the PCH rods all the time. You're going to get you buy a Komodo reel, you're going to get an Okuma Sun shirt. And it goes on and on and on. The whole show could be talked about, all the different great deals they're going to have over there at the booth. So check everything out. You go and you buy it at Turner's or any of the other any of the other stores that are selling their product, and you just take your receipt over to the Okuma booth. You're going to get one of these free things depending on what you buy. So check it all out. And then our good friend Captain Al Clowers, who's with us right now, you just got home, Benji. Al just got off the water. This is what Al was doing this morning.
I left sorry about my sunglasses. I left my reader in the boat.
So when Benji was talking about jerkbait, Al, that's something you kind of got figured out, right?
Oh yeah. Hey, my question about that rod and the 110 with stock hooks. What kind of line you got on that reel? You got braid to top shot of fluorocarbon, and what pound test?
Yeah, so I run anywhere from 20 to 30 pound braid. 30 pound is what I used. I go back and forth. I like 20
Right.
for the extra casting distance.
Right.
And I run a fluorocarbon leader. Right now I'm running 20 pound fluorocarbon leader, but anywhere between 15 to 20 pound fluorocarbon leader.
Right.
Just use a connection knot to do that. And that's
Yeah, well, with that braid, that thing will wing it, boy. 20
yeah.
20-pound diameter braid is sweet. It's like thread.
Yeah, and I think like I feel like people get over fixated on casting distance, the casting distance for the Lucky Craft. I mean, a lot of times if you're fishing the right structure, you don't need to cast far,
Right.
but it's nice to have it in your back pocket, like if you need it.
Right.
So
Yeah. It's just nice when it's nice and smooth.
yeah,
You know, just effortless.
yeah. But that was a nice bass, Captain Al. How much did it weigh?
I've been jacking up the bass, Jack. I'm on a little mission right now because the show's coming up. It's not too many charters, so I'm kind of like focusing on the lakes.
That's
then
sick.
getting up at 4 and getting out there right at daybreak. But that was
that
a
a pre-
7-4 this morning.
Okay.
I caught
it's
that thing
spawning.
I caught it on an ice jig actually.
Nice.
But I've been catching most of my fish. My fish lately, Carolina rig and a Zoom's ultravide speed craw.
Got it.
And yesterday I fished El Cap and had about 17 up to 3.5 pounds.
Wow.
Last time I fished Ota, I had like 24 up to 4 pounds.
Wow.
And then, yeah, it's been crazy. So this morning I got up early. I'm like, I'm going to go to Ota and be back in time for the show. So I jammed out there and fishing was okay, you know, and I'm fishing in this structure area, cuts like a ditch with rock on the side of it where the females are staging outside, you know, trying to get them big ones. And I caught a bunch of 2 to 3 pounders, and then my brothers showed up and they got bait. And I told them, I said, dude, right outside of me, there's a bunch of fish swimming all around. So I turned on my active target and went out into 20 foot. And you should have seen it. Look like it was crazy. I mean, those things were swimming around in the mud everywhere, and it wouldn't eat the drop shot. So I'm like, oh man, let me put on an ice jig. And we don't normally fish the ice jig this time of year. It's normally January and December and January. But so I started pitching that ice jig around. Dude, that big one ate it, and I was like, yeah. And then no fish had been up on beds. And today I went looking a little bit. I didn't have a lot of time. And so I stuck 2 bed fish. And then I picked up my flipping rod because a lot of the area around the Tulies at Otay right now is really shallow, but there's some deep areas. And I was in that area. First flip, I caught one too. So it was cool. I ended up with, I don't know, 14 or 15 for the morning.
Wow.
Nice fish. Yeah.
That's good.
Amazing.
Back home.
Good stuff, man.
Well, he asked the day before yesterday, he sent me this picture of his grandson. Look at that fish.
Woo!
Yeah. That's what it's all about, is introducing the kids to fishing. Like he said, he's going to get the kids out there surf fishing. They're going to be like Benji and Bill here. And Al and I would love to bring something to this conversation, but we're kind of yacht guys and boat guys, and we're kind of going to watch and listen to you and Bill talk about this surf fishing thing. And those of you that are watching today is Wednesday. We normally, Bill and I are talking surf fishing and talking about what's going on. We've been kind of very, very concerned and worried about the sand bass fishery in Southern California. So that's what we were focused on for the last couple of months, saving sand bass. And we did. We were able to save sand bass because of everybody that was paying attention. But Benji and Bill, I would love for you guys to talk to everybody here right now about the volume, the massive amounts of sand bass that you actually see on the beach, which is, Al and I know there's a gazillions of them. But I think some people need to know the reason why they don't catch sand bass in the surf is because they're not fishing the right way for them. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you two could help me and Al out. What do you think?
You want to go, Bill?
Well, yeah. Well, from my perspective and in my experience, you know, first of all, you're not going to find sand bass. the name, but you're not going to find them on the open sand. They're always going to be adjacent to structure somewhere. So places where you have structure, whether it's up at Vandenberg Air Force Base or all the way down somewhere in San Diego, you're always going to find sand bass. And one thing that's funny about sand bass for most surf anglers like me, and I'm sure Benji too, is they're kind of annoying. It's not that there's so many of them, but it's really not what we're angling for. And I have caught them just, like I said, anywhere where there is rock structure, you're going to have sand bass, different types area. San Diego in particular, and I'm not exactly sure why, from really oceanside all the way down to Mission Bay, there is a lot of areas where there is sandstone formations. San Alejo Beach is a good example there, where there's these sandstone formations that are out of the water at low tide, but covered at high tide. And for whatever reason, the sand bass accumulate around there. Well, why do they accumulate? Well, it's the same reason, Dave, that we talked about before, why they left the flats in Huntington Beach, because they're primarily clam eaters. And so they go and they look for clams and worms around this kind of a muddy-ish, rockish areas where they can actually get in and feed there. And that's what they're attracted to. So, and that was a question I want to ask you, Benji. On the video, part of that video is at Halama Beach, is it not?
Is it one that's like, it takes like 50 minutes to get there off the freeway?
Yes.
I think so then.
Yes, it's above Santa Barbara, and then you go on a 15-mile windy road, and all of a sudden you come over a little pass, and there's the ocean.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. It was part of a week-long trip I was on with my buddy, and we were like researching on maps. And then we're like, ooh, this one let's just check it out. So we went, it was totally blown out and salad everywhere. Mm-hmm. So we literally didn't fish. And it took like an hour to get there off the freeway. I was like, oh man. So my buddy's he's my friend, but he's also my videographer. So I was like, hey, can you take some B-roll for me? Yeah.
The best burgers there. But the reason I said that, is that I saw the striper, and I don't know if you caught that striper at Halama or not, but a lot of people don't know. Like, I have been fishing there. It's right next to Vandenberg Air Force Base. I've been fishing there for a long time, since the 70s. And 3 years ago, I caught my first Corbina there, which was really far north. I was super surprised. Yeah. But the next day, I hiked at low tide 5 miles down the beach, which you have to do it at a lower tide because there's some cliff areas there, which is down by the lighthouse at Point Conception. And there were these big fish swimming through when the waves came up to peak, you could see them. So I had, of course, the Lucky Craft on, cast out, first cast, I think first crank size, and there were just dozens of them back and forth up there. And I think very few people know that spot, when it's not windy, has some extremely good surf fishing up there. And of course, there's a few halibut mixed in there, but just so many of those striper, and of course, those really big barred perch up there.
Gotcha. Yeah, that was my first and only time that I've been up there. It was a part of just an exploration trip. And honestly, that's really what I love about fishing so much, is the exploration. Me too. And just the process and journey. Like, I love hearing you like, hey, I've been fishing there since like the 70s. And it's like the accumulation of knowledge that you've acquired over time. It's not like you just walked up there the first time and you learned how to fish it. It's the time that you've walked over the years that is so rewarding in terms of like dialing in a beach. That's so cool.
That's so true, because we would just go up there to surf originally, and then we'd bring our rods and we'd fish for a little while and maybe get a little perch here and there. And then this guy, like 35 years ago, he was catching big perch one after another. He was kind of out to his waist, and there's a creek that comes out there, and he was fishing there, just getting them. And when he came in, I was like, what is going on, man? He goes, I'm using these crappie lures, which of course are these, I've got them here somewhere. Were these like big hammer grubs, 2-inch grubs the guy was using. I'd never even seen them before. And he's like, let me give you one of these things. And this is how you rig it on there. First cast, I caught one, and now everybody uses them. So you're right, Benji, you know, that you just like pick up these little tidbits as you go along, you fit them together in the puzzle, and you learn so much. And your experience with my book is the experience that so many people have had, where it just gave them a starting point. And then from that jump off point, they know way more than I know. They learned way more, just like you, about stuff that I don't concentrate on, by just having a step off point to feel a little bit confident, and then expanding your mind from there. Because you really have to open up your mind and just let the thoughts come in. Look at the conditions, the moon phase, the tide, kind of think about what days were good, what days were slow. It was windy, but on the calm day was better. And you start putting all those pieces of the puzzle together. And then all of us as anglers, as a community, we'll say, we might make a post, or we might talk on a podcast about a technique we used or something we saw or whatever. And you take all those and you put them together. And that's how you get better at angling.
Yeah. And that's fishing. Like everything you just said, for me, that's fishing, you know? And I think, and that's, you know, for entry level, when people are just getting into the game, there's different types of mindsets that people walk in with. And, you know, I think for a newcomer, it's more like, hey, where is that? And I want to catch it too. But there's also like, between that catching part and actually like getting there is actually a lot of steps in between, you know? And so that's what I love doing, is that in between part. And then the catching part is like the reward, you know? And it's the funnest part, don't get me wrong.
No, that's how Al and I like to put the puzzle together too. And Al and I are like, if we see a dirt road that might lead to water, we're going there to see what's on the other end of that water, just like you said, Benji. One thing, though, that I think it's super important that we have you here, because everybody's been watching me and Bill and Al talk about this fish. I'm sorry, I'm going right back to the sand bass, because this is the most important fish for my industry, which is the sport boats and the private boaters. The sand bass is such an important fish. We cannot just skip over it. I know you guys love halibut and sea bass and striped bass and all that stuff, but if it wasn't for the barred sand bass, we wouldn't have an industry. We wouldn't have tackle shops. We wouldn't have all these rod and reel companies, and we wouldn't have these beautiful sport boats that we all love to go fishing on. So I want to go right back to this, Benji, because there's actually entities, which are hard to believe, that do not want you and me and Bill and Al fishing. And there's going to be entities in our world real close to us at the show. So we're right back to this that I want to talk about. I'm sorry. I know trophy fish is not a sand bass, but you guys come in contact with sand bass all the time. What they wanted us to believe, there's about 5 people that want you to believe there are no sand bass anymore. And they're going to stand in front of people and tell them that. And they say they can't catch a little sand bass. I just want you guys to talk. I know you don't target them. I know that. But you see sand bass, correct?
No, yeah, I can't say that I've ever went out to the surf and targeted sand bass, but I've caught my fair share. And I love catching sand bass. Like whenever I see one coming in, I mean, they're incredible fighters. And even the small ones fight really good. And so it's funny when you're talking about sand. Again, I don't know very much about this at all, but a particular stretch of sand that I like to fish, I've only caught sand bass and 0 calicos. And then you fish a mile away and it's all calicos and no sand bass. So there's like an area that I don't know why, you know, but I've like never caught any other bass there other than sand bass. And especially during the summertime and fall, there seemed to be no shortage of them. That's for sure.
Yeah, and then Captain Al has the same thing when he went fishing with Bill in the bay. Al's got his places where he catches a zillion spotted bay bass, and he can move 1/8 of a mile away in the same bay and not see a spotted bay bass, but catch a zillion sand bass. Right. Now, Bill and I talked about this a lot as we led up to this Fish and Game Commission's meeting, and we having you here, Benji. They've seen me and Al and Bill talk about this, but you're bringing a new perspective to this. You're bringing a lot of people love watching your content, but you're not making, you and your videographer aren't making videos of catching all these small sand bass. Nobody's going to watch it to begin with. They're going to see you guys catching your striped bass and your sea bass and your halibut. But there are actual people that are fighting against you and I, and they want to close all these beautiful, like that area that you drove to, Halama Bay, that Bill talks about. And I want to go there. It seems magical. Al and I want to get in my 4Runner and drive up there. But to think that we're that close to losing that. And my sister was in a meeting last night in Laguna Beach where they're trying to make the MLP larger. And there's actual people that pretend to be surf fisher. They're pulling a scam on us, and they're pretending to be these surf fishing guys, but they're not. They have an agenda to close fishing. And I want you, Bill and I and Al have talked about there's a billion fish if you know how to fish. You coming from a different world that they haven't seen you yet. You're going to be a part of this show a lot more. Believe me, we love having you here. Bill and I really appreciate you, but you need to tell people that there's no shortage of fish, correct?
Seems pretty good out there.
You make some epic videos, and I know you're showing us the trophy fish, but if you know how to fish, and if you listen to Al and Bill and Benji, and you actually go and do what they say, because I was just reading this article my sister sent me a few minutes ago. Bill, I'm sorry, I'm fired up again. I get so fired up when people want to close my industry. There's people saying that the good old days, it's not like the good old days. And I'm like, well, 2 years ago, we caught more Dorado in Southern California than we ever caught in the history of Southern California. So to say the good old days, and my dad used to say this before he passed away, God rest his soul, these are the good old days right now. It's never been this good. And to think that you want to close more of the ocean because of your lack of ability to know how to fish, I want you to listen to Benji right now. Benji, you got into this how long ago?
I think like it just in terms of like my online presence and like building my social media presence, I think it's been 5 years approximately, give or take, about 4 to 6 years, somewhere in between that.
So compared to the three old guys sitting here, you're rather new to this, and you're having a ball catching fish, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, I am 47 though, so
no, I know you are. I know you're an old man, but as far as fishing,
yeah, I'm definitely I'm still like elementary school in terms of my experience for sure. No, it's a blast, man. I mean, dude, you can still fish and catch fish, no problem.
There's no shortage of fish, none.
And you know, Dave, where there used to be a lot of sand bass that were really annoying was at Laguna Beach. From Laguna Beach, from Crystal Cove through Laguna Beach, we'd always go fishing at Brook Street for Corbina. It was really good. It's probably one of the best Corbina spots along there. And if you weren't catching a Corbina, you're getting, one about this big a sand bass, and they were so annoying. So yeah, one of the spots they closed was like completely wide open.
Right. The world record calico bass was caught off the rocks in Laguna. Right. It was caught off the rocks in Laguna, where you're never going to get to do that again, because somebody that eats their boogers decided there weren't no fish in Laguna. And now we can't fish in Laguna anymore. And there's nothing like it on the planet Earth. I've been to a lot of fishing places, and there's really nothing like Laguna. The water, crystal clear most of the time because of the kelp and the reef system and the mussels and the oysters and the clams and everything that's there that filters the water and makes it so crystal clear all the time. And we don't get to go there anymore and fish. And I cannot believe that there's actually entities that fish that want to close more of the coast, gang. We've already got enough closures going on. We don't want any more closures. We're done with closures. And I think we've proved that we can move the needle here now with the mob, which we want to call your Saltwater Guide Group. And I just wanted to capitalize on the fact that we have Benji with us today, and you get to hear me and Al and Bill, and it starts to sound like almost like political when we're talking, but yeah, or a broken record. We want to say fishing, but Benji, you have young men in your life. Or I know you have a son. I don't know anything else about it. I just know you have a son because he was sick today. But to think that whether they like to fish or not, but to not be able to fish, that's kind of a crappy feeling, right?
No, for sure. Yeah, no, I definitely am by the side of all the people who are doing the good work to protect the fishery. And I think what I appreciate about the same people is also like we are not like it's not like we are careless about the fishery. We care about the fishery and its resources and fishing it properly, you know, and doing our part on the conservation side too. And so I understand the efforts going on. I haven't dipped my feet into that side of it, but also see what's going on, and I appreciate and love the work that's going on just to keep the fishery open.
Well, Bill Varney will tell you, never in our wildest imagination did you think Dave Hansen would be beating the drum, be anywhere in a political arena in any way, shape, or form. I'm the most anti-politician, anti-government, anti-human being on the planet, but I did what my father told me to do, and he said, you need to get involved because they're taking it all away from you, son. And now here I am. I'm the guy that everyone's calling, going, you need to talk about this, you need to talk about that. And we have an opportunity to have some new blood in the arena with us, which I know you're not new, but you're new to us and you're new to our audience. And I think it's just really important to show up at the show, gang, and come see Benji and Bill up on stage speaking. It's going to be really, really cool to watch the interaction and see what's going on and see a different perspective. We know Bill's perspective. We get to have Bill talk to us all the time, but I really want to get more of your perspective, Benji, and the way that you attack this fishing thing, like Captain Al attacks the largemouth bass, and you're talking about jerking and this and that. I'm a bait guy. I throw the bait out in the water, the fish eats it, I wind them in. There's a lot of talent involved with that. I understand. I'm not into making 900 casts to catch a fish like you and Al and Bill are. That's not me.
I've seen you give us lessons on how to throw the surface iron and stuff, man. I've seen it. No need to be humble.
If I have a big tank of anchovies and I can throw a whole bunch in the water, then I'll throw the surface iron in there and catch it.
Dude, man, you see me on a sport boat, man. I'm live baiting the whole time, dude.
Thank you.
Well, hey, whatever it takes to get bit. If you got to go to the bait tank, cool. If you got to go to your 1,000 bait tackle box, cool.
Hey, sometimes if you just want that one bite on that right tuna, man, I'm putting that bait in the water, not thinking twice about it.
That's one thing cool I like about lake fishing, because I like doing a bunch of different stuff, you know.
Yeah.
And bass fishing, you can catch them on thousands of different techniques depending on what season you're fishing, you know.
For sure.
But you were able to pick up.
Dave,
hold on a second. You were able to pick up Bill's book. I want you and Bill to talk about how the book helped you to take the curve out of it, Benji, because I watch you and you're a very, very good fisherman, and you took the curve out of it very quickly, where most people that have been doing it 10 years or less, they're not going to catch what you catch. It's a big curve, but you took Bill's book and you used it like the Bible, and it kind of took the curve out for you. Can you and Bill kind of talk about the book a little bit?
Well, I mean, I'll speak on it. You know, if you think about wanting to start something like surf fishing, you know, you're going to be searching, right? Whether it's, you know, going on online forums, blah, 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 and those are helpful too. But the fact that there was this book that fit exactly what I wanted to do, part of the reason why I avoided surf fishing for so long was the thought in my head that I have to use a 13-foot rod with like a 6,000 size reel, 50-pound test, and come out with my lawn chair and ice cooler. Like, that's just not my style. I mean, it's totally valid and works really, really well. It's just not my style. Like, I'm more of an active fisherman, personality wise. And so when I saw the title of that book, you know, I was like, no way, you gotta be kidding me. Like, you can go out there and throw 6 pound, 4 pound, like from the surf and catch fish and sometimes big ones. Like, you gotta be kidding me. So I was just immediately, just the fact that I didn't know that you could do that, you know? And so just being able to have that, and then just having it broken down, just again, I think Bill, you said it perfectly. It sets you up to explore and start developing your own style, you know, but it gives you the building blocks of what people have done and how to get started, you know, and it just starts, it gives you the opportunity to start drawing on your own canvas, if that makes any sense, you know, and to do it your own way. And so that's why I'll always like give so much credit to Bill and the book, and that book, and just the person that he is, what he's done for the fishery, you know, for the surf fishing in the California coast. It's given us the chance to start. And obviously the information's great, but also just the fact that he did it when no one else had done it, to my knowledge anyways, at that point, you know? So I'll always be grateful for that. Like, super, super helpful. Oh, where did everyone go?
Bill, what happened?
Froze for a second. But Benji, you know, you're so right. But you know, the really big component of it, and to be successful at any, whether it's fishing or whatever in life, is, let's take fishing. It's time on the water. So, like, as an example, like if I was to want to learn how to go surfing, and I'd never surfed before, and I was 20, let's say, and I went and I got a coach for surfing, and he and I met down at the beach, and he said, okay, here's how you wax your board, and then you're laying down, and then you're going to push off, and this is how you stand up, and you're right-handed, so you'll stand this way, you're left-handed, you'll stand that way, this is how you paddle and all that. That's all well and good, but until you paddle out in the water, leave your coach on the land, leave your book on the land, leave your book on your table next to your bed, and spend time on the water and practice. And that's what you did a tremendous amount of time. You think about all the time, Benji, that you spent down on the beach and preparing and learning and talking to others and all that. That's what comes together to make you a great angler. So it's so great to, like, guide, for example, or my book, for example, or to go fishing with Captain Al, to get this foundation and then take that with your passion and expand upon it. And once again, over all of the years that I've been at all the shows and all of the people who've come to talk to me about surf fishing and have a passion for me, there's so many people who didn't think it was something that they could do, got a foundation, began to get their feet wet, and then ended up being much better at it than I was. There's a lot of people who sent me pictures or shown me pictures on the phone of spotfin croaker, yellowfin croaker, halibut, sea bass, and every fish in the
We
ocean.
lost him.
So it's just catch the disease and get out there and utilize it.
Absolutely. Sure. And you guys, if you haven't been over to our website yet, Bill Varney does a epic job of making sure that when you go surf fishing, you're going to catch fish. He does the game plans on Thursdays. They come out around 3:30 in the afternoon. He covers everywhere. He tells you about what's going on the water and the wave velocity, the KPG or whatever. What did you call that one? I don't even know what you're talking about, but he covers everything to make sure you're not going to get caught out there with your pants down. You got a chance to catch fish. He's going to tell you if you should go this weekend, if you shouldn't go. We don't send you out there. We don't want you to get hurt. We want you to have the best time of your life when you go surf fishing. Bill covers it all on his game plans that come out every Thursday at Your Saltwater Guide. And then Captain Al covers San Diego like nobody's business. And he's going to start a new section for the San Diego lakes. We're going to piss off a whole bunch of other people now. We're going to start telling you where to catch fish at the San Diego lakes like we do at the beach. And then you got my game plans and Justin's game plans and Pablo's game plans and Sonny's game plans. what we've done over here at Your Saltwater Guide is second to none, because you got all this knowledge, and then we're telling you exactly where to go. Now, if you want to spend time analyzing charts and figuring out wave movement and all that stuff, and if that's what you have time to do, that's fine. There's other websites for you. But what we do at our website is we tell you where to go and what to do when you get there, so that your time on water is utilized, because a lot of people don't have time to study all that stuff. They want to go, throw their line in the water, catch a fish like Benji or Al or Bill. They don't really have the time to focus on learning all that stuff. And I'm with you. I didn't have the time either. I would just get on the VHF radio and call somebody and say, where should I take my 90 people today? And they would tell me where to go. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
We kind of figured it out too, but I'm telling you, you don't have to anymore. This website that we built, Your Saltwater Guide, second to none. There's nothing out there like it. Go check it out. I'll give you a free look. You can see Bill's part of the website. You can see Al's, you can see mine, Justin's, Pablo's, everybody's for free. And then you can tell me if it's worth it by calling me back. If you don't call me back, I'm never calling you and begging you for money. Believe me, Kelly and I are going to have lobsters tonight, whether you sign up or not. I promise. We're going to have time of our lives. But the website is second to none. There's nothing like it. There's the QR code to jump on there. Gang, I just got our booth number where you're going to be able to find. Benji's going to come over and hang out at the booth before him and Bill go live on stage. Al will be in the booth peddling all of his wares, his bait tubes and everything else that he's got going on. Justin, Paul, everybody will be hanging. We're going to be in booth 911 and 912 in the brand new structure that they're building right now to house us. And our stage will be right next to our booth, where we'll all be speaking on stage. Benji will be on that stage. Bill will be on that stage. Al will be on that stage. And I'll be doing some stand-up up there on the stage. If you've never been to one of my shows before, you're going to be blown away, because I do not take this fishing thing serious at all. You're going to have a good time. Bring your children. I never cuss. Ever. I never say a bad word. And if the children hear me cuss, they get more free stuff. All of my sponsors bring tons of free stuff for your children. We make sure that every child goes home with some really cool stuff. My sister over at Dano Sport Fishing has given me 58 bags of swag for the children that show up. Over at Okuma, they've given me over 100 children's hats to give out to all your children. Over at Promar, they have unbelievable giant bags of free stuff for your children. And then those of you adults that show up to my booth or to Dave Farron's booth at Deckhand Sports, you guys are going to get a free Okuma hat, a Costa hat, or a Deckhand Sports hat. Everybody steps up when Captain Dave and the crew show up at the shows, and we make it a phenomenal event for everybody. You're going to have lots of fun. You're going to have a good time laughing at me up on stage. I make sure that it's fun. And then Bill and Al and Justin and Pablo and Sonny will be answering your questions after Dave's done with his stand-up. Don't miss the Pacific Coast Sport Fishing Show. Everybody that you see sitting in front of you right now is going to be at this show. We're all very, very excited. We're very excited to see Bill talk. We're excited to see Benji. We're excited to see Al. You come to the show. I would get there early. I would go the first day. Definitely go the first day, right, Benji? Because Okuma's got unbelievable specials that will be all sold out by Friday.
Well, if you want that rail rod with Macairo, if you want that rail rod, which is an incredible deal, line up early, run to one of the vendors, get the Macairo, and then run to Okuma, because that deal is going to run out really fast for sure.
Absolutely.
For sure.
You want to make sure.
For sure. Just one warning about Dave when you're listening to Dave. You know, I really suggest a lot of you folks out there, like, there is no reason to sit in the front row. I mean, the guy's breath is not that bad, but the amount of spittle that comes out of the guy, it's like a weather report up there. It's crazy.
Yeah. I'm the only seminar guy that comes off the stage dripping wet like I've been at a rock concert. I try to have as much fun as I can, but we'll have a plethora of friends up there on the stage, and there'll be so many people. And then we'll help point you out to the people that are trying to close fishing too. We'll have a good time with those people there too. You know me, I'm afraid of nothing. So what are they going to do to me? I got 800,000 followers. We're on a rocket train to the moon right now. So good luck slowing me down or canceling me. But I will promise you, if you want to close down my passion, I am going to embarrass the living bejesus out of you in front of everybody. So don't try to close my passion down unless you're ready. You better have a lot of ammunition, gang, because I'm coming. But on a good note, this has been a phenomenal show, Benji. I am super excited to see you speak at the show. It's going to be fun to see you up on stage. I hope that you have some time to hang out with me and my buddies over at our booth, right, Al?
Absolutely. Come have some hot dogs and hamburgers Saturday night, too.
You
On
got me at hot
Saturday
dogs
night.
and hamburgers.
On Saturday night, we're having a party in the parking lot at Captain Al's motorhome. We're doing the party at the no driving, no going to a pizza party. We're going to be at Al's, Traegering up the burgers and the hot dogs and just having a good old time. Everybody hanging out. You don't have to go anywhere. You watch our show. You can come over to Al's camper or motorhome and have some food with us. It's going to be great. Kelly and I are getting all the food for everybody. So just bring yourself. And if you have something that you think that we'd all like to eat, bring that. But we'll have plenty of burgers, plenty of hot dogs, plenty of sodas, plenty of waters, no alcohol. I don't want you hanging on me, telling me how much you love me. I already know you love me. I don't need you to hang on me and tell me. I'm kind of not into alcohol. So if you decide that you need to drink, go hang out at somebody else's booth.
Well, a couple last things to add is, so Benji and I will be up on stage at 5 o'clock on Friday, I believe. And
Yep.
Second of all, everybody who's watching, and if you're not a member of your Saltwater Guide, remember, come by the booth. We'll give you a pass for a free 7-day look at it. Dave is not going to call you during those 7 days. He's not going to call you on the 8th day. He's not going to slobber on you like he does on the rest of us. He's just going to let you check it out. And if it's right for you, go for it, man. And if it's not, you've got other things to do. And just one last thing I wanted to add. Dave knows that, and maybe Al, that I've been driving for the past several days. And I've had a lot of time to think over those days. And you know what I was thinking about? I was thinking about sand bass, of course. When I was probably before I was born, the Garibaldi, the California Garibaldi, was not only made the California state fish, but it was protected so you couldn't take it. Like none have been taken in the last 60 years. And when I look at sand bass, who are protected from the standpoint of there's a size limit, there's a possession limit. There are so many more sand bass than Garibaldi. People have been catching like millions and millions of them over the last 60 years. They're still all over the place. And Garibaldi, I can hardly find the darn things. So we need some science to figure this out. Like, why have we protected Garibaldi for 60 years, but there's no more today than there was 60 years ago? But we on the other hand, we want to shut off the fishing for sand bass, where we still catch them all the time, whether I was on a boat or a private boat or on the beach or whatever. So the Garibaldi story, I'd like to get to the bottom of that.
Yeah, let's get to the bottom of it. All right, you guys, I want to thank everybody for watching our silly little show today. Thank you all so much. Okuma, thank you for everything you do for us. Thank you. Tomorrow we got a great show. The great Kelly girl is going to be here. She's going to give out a 4-pack of tickets to one lucky person on the show tomorrow for the Pacific Coast Sport Fishing Show. Check us out. Get there, like Benji said, get there Thursday and get ready to run to get your Macaira reel so you can get your free rail rod. And then Bill Varney and I and Al will be hanging out in our booth, and we'll be barbecuing them up on Saturday. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day. Turn off the news. They're all lying.